Pour yourself a fresh cup of awakening with Coffee with Wally, the podcast that brews enlightening discussions with a grind of the past and future. Join host and seasoned broadcast journalist Wally Wood of the Wood News Group and co-host Andy Valudes, the marine marketer and master strategist from Marketing Dynamics, as they explore the past, present, and future. Dive into a world where technology and globalization intersect with prophecy. Each week, Coffee with Wally links ancient and recent history to tomorrow, making sense of today's rapid changes through the lens of Revelation 13. Don't miss any episode. Visit coffeewithwally.com and subscribe for your weekly espresso of insight. Coffee with Wally, a fresh cup of awakening, awaits you. Coffee with Wally, where understanding our times becomes clear over caffeine.
All right, we're back. My name is Andy Valudes. I'm your co-host of Coffee with Wally, here with your host, Wally Wood. Hey, Wally, how you doing today?
And good morning to you, brother. I've got my coffee cup. Yeah, there you go.
Amen.
Coffee Wally,
you go to
coffee
the website,
cup.
coffeewithwally.com, and get your own commemorative coffee. We're going to make this coffee cup thing really famous before we're too long, right? But we're having so much fun.
Hey, I take it to Starbucks. I take it to anywhere I go, and people are fascinated when they see that cup.
And I've seen you in action there. You've actually wound up making some great conversations with people at the coffee shops.
There you go. Yeah.
So
That's what this show's all about, is great conversations.
Yes. And you and I have been having so much fun interviewing these hard believers and these people that are living legends. And they wouldn't say that about themselves, but I'll say that. It's always cool to see these people that we're interviewing and their fingerprints in the history, if you will. But before we went going, want to take out another plug. We're wearing the Champions Kids Camp hat. Been chatting with Bill Nash. They've got their Champions Kids Camp coming up this summer, July 13th, I think, is when they take their first batch of kids. And of course, we're still working with the Imagination Kids Expo that's going to be here in Rosenberg this weekend on 4th of July. But anyway, Wally, go ahead and take it over.
Okay, well, I'm going to be interviewing a very intriguing, interesting local guest that most people have already heard his voice on radio. But for the past 3 decades, Bill Ingram has been the calming voice amid the traffic turmoil, broadcasting crucial traffic reports to people in the greater Houston area from the Christian music radio station here, KSBJ. Over his long-standing career that spans 4 decades, Ingram is, being a resident of Tarkington Prairie, Texas, has earned a place in the Texas Radio Hall of Fame. Now, we don't pick on little people to interview. We pick on big people here. And the Texas Hall of Fame, Radio Hall of Fame is pretty big. Ingram grew up in the Houston area and got his start in the radio broadcasting industry through his father, who started giving his son editing tasks on reel-to-reel tapes. Boy, that brings back memories. When he was just a young teenager, he started his radio career on December 21st, 1975 at KSPL in Diboll, Texas. In 1997, he came to KSBJ here in Houston. In 2008, he started doing afternoon traffic. And in 2013, he started doing morning and afternoon traffic. In December 2017, he was inducted into the Texas Radio Hall of Fame at the Texas Museum of Broadcasting and Communication in Kilgore, Texas. In December of this year, 2025, he will have completed 50 years in broadcasting. I hope that makes you feel old, Bill. He has a special program on KSBJ entitled Welcome to Texas with Bill Ingram, and he tells stories of history, life, and faith in the Lone Star State. So, folks, today we introduce you to Mr. Distinguished himself, Mr. Bill Ingram. Hello, Bill.
Well, thank you very much. I don't know if I can follow that intro.
You can send the check in the mail. You and I go back a long way, though we've never personally met. You started in 75. I started in 72. Why I'm not in the Hall of Fame yet, I do not know.
We'll have to work on that.
Yeah, I'll have to work on that. But I was particularly impressed when I read your bio that one of the stations that you went to work for early was WTAW.
Mm-hmm. Watch the Aggies win.
Isn't that something? Watch the Aggies win at A&M.
I was so proud to work there too, because the history, and like I've told you, you know that I love history. And the history of that radio station is the third oldest radio station in Texas.
Huh.
And for me to put those call letters on my resume, that meant a lot.
Yes.
They did the very first football play-by-play of any radio station in the world.
Really?
Yes, between Texas A&M and University of Texas.
And it became a historical time from that point forward.
Yeah, and they quit playing, I forgot what year, but
In the 80s,
now
I
they're going to
believe.
go back to playing each other again. So
Yes, yes. Now, what did you do there at WTAW?
I just did an afternoon shift. Well, it was actually the noon to 4
Oh,
shift, air
okay.
shift. And I was just a jock. I
Yeah,
played music and pretty much did whatever I felt like doing
yeah.
here that time.
That's pretty much how we all got started in broadcasting, was being assigned a turntable.
Right? They gave me 2 turntables and 3 cart machines, and they
There
said,
you go.
"Okay, have
Yeah,
fun."
I know. I know. Hey, my first day at a local radio station here, a big one at the time, um, I did all kinds of damage on my first time on the air, and I was surprised they invited me to come back for my next shift.
When I first got in radio, I had my sights set on KILT, which was at
Right?
that time a huge rock and roll station. But as time went on, they changed the format to country. And,
Uh-huh.
but that's oddly enough, that's what I did on the air was country radio. I spent
Really?
a lot of my career in country radio.
Now,
So,
did you try that in your shift at KILT?
I did, when I got on at KILT, one of my first nights on the air, Reba McEntire had just come out with what was that? The nights lights went out in Georgia,
Okay.
and I fired it up, and we were playing CDs. It's before the
Yes.
computer thing had taken over, really. So we were playing CDs. I fired it up, and it had a lip on it that you lift up, and it would pop it back out. Well,
Mhm.
the one that was playing was Reba, and I reached up there and I pulled it out, and I realized I just pulled Reba off the air in the middle of a song. I'm trying to make a good impression, because I've always wanted to work at this radio station, and I
Well,
knew that Candia was listening. He was the program director, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I made
well,
a
brother, you and I are on the same page, but this is an interview of you, not me. So I'll spare you my horror stories for another
I want
time.
to hear some of them though.
Yeah. Oh, brother, it was something else. Um, Now you start out in secular radio. You're
Mhm.
now in Christian radio. When did you make that transition?
In 1997, I was working. I had left country radio and I was working for a traffic service. I was the national network anchor for Road Watch America, which was a subsidiary of Metro Traffic Control. And I was on, I don't even know how many stations I was on. They were all 50,000 watt blow torches. So I was on WABC in New York, WJR in Detroit, KOA in Denver. I can't remember all the stations now, but
Now, were you syndicated to these stations?
no,
Oh,
they had just signed up with our network,
okay.
and I did traffic for these stations. And in 1996, out of the blue, I got blown out. They closed
Meaning,
they closed our department.
oh, really?
Yeah, and all of us got blown out. And so I'm looking for something to do. I'm looking for another job.
Yeah,
I had some tapes and resumes ready just because you have to in this business.
right.
And I had handed all those out to everybody I knew, and not one phone call. Couldn't get anybody. My good friends wouldn't call me back, and I was frustrated. So I before I had to go back in the studio and do a bunch of other uh, demo tapes, or I couldn't do air checks because I wasn't on the air at that time.
Right.
But before I could do any more uh, production like that, I wanted to make sure I hit all the stations I could. I didn't know a soul at KSBJ. And I went in there and I just gave the little receptionist, I gave her a tape and a resume. This is my last one. Make sure your program director gets it. Thank you. And I didn't know who the PD was. So,
Right.
and a few days later, I get a call back from the assistant program director. She said, "Come on in. We want to talk to you." Come to find out, she used to work at WOW in Omaha. That was one
Wow.
of my stations on the Road Watch America network. We knew some of the same people. So we got to talking. I was telling her jokes. Uh, we spent about 3 hours on this job interview.
Mhm.
And I'm like, oh man, I blew that. I come out of there going, I'm telling the lady jokes, she's going to hire me.
I
And
fully understand.
they called me and hired me the next day. So
Really.
yeah.
Now, the sound check you sent them, was it an air traffic report? I mean, a traffic report?
Actually, it was an old air check from Kilt.
Okay.
That's all I had. I
Okay.
left Kilt in 92. This was in 90, with the very first part of 1997. And so the last air check I had was from Kilt in 92.
Okay.
And that's what I gave them.
And this was back in the Hudson and Harrigan days, and
Yeah,
Robert B.
H&H was
McIntyre.
there. RB
Robert B.
McIntyre
McIntyre.
was
Yeah.
there. And let me tell you, they were so much fun. They were so much fun. TJ Callahan's a real good friend of mine. She used to do news for me when I was at WTAW.
Okay.
We knew each other real well. And she was the traffic girl for H&H.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, I mean, it was just a fun crew to work with over there.
Now, you've been working traffic how long here in Houston?
Technically, I guess since 1991. And
Didn't you and Marty Ambrose work together or in the same
yes,
building?
I did. I did work with Marty. I loved Marty. He was
Yes.
a funny guy. Every year he'd do a procrastinator's Christmas party on January 25th. He was just funny like that, just a blast to work with. And
Yeah, Marty and I became real good friends of those years.
learned so much just from watching him,
Yeah.
because he was so good. And
Well, he was the voice of Houston traffic reporting for so long.
He's still known as the Dean of Houston Traffic, even though he's been gone now for a number of years.
Yes, yes. Y'all worked in the same building?
Yeah, we worked in the same studio.
Okay.
It was a studio of about 30 reporters. And he had his own private space.
Uh-huh, right.
And I had my own studio because that's when I was with Road Watch America. So I had my own section. But yeah, it was just pretty much the same studio. I mean, you walk out my little door there and we're all in the same room,
Yeah, yeah. You have been with KSBJ now since the late 90s, correct? 97?
97, yeah.
Yeah. And you knew a lot of the original broadcasters from KSBJ from the very beginning. And so what goes into your planning these days? I saw a picture of your office. You got what, 3 big screens in front of you?
I got 4 big screens in front of me.
Okay.
And I have one screen to my right and another screen to my far right.
Uh-huh. And you, on occasion, you have an additional assistant join you in your studio, your granddaughter.
My granddaughter, Aubrey, she's 7, and she lives just down the road from us.
Uh-huh.
They're here quite a bit because they live so close. We have
Right.
a family dinner once a week, and so they all come over. And Aubrey has her own chair, which is right behind me here in my studio.
Uh-huh.
Aubrey's chair, everybody knows that. He also has her own piece of my wall here in my studio. I call it Aubrey's Corner. It's all the artwork that she's done. And
Wow.
I frame it and I hang it on the wall back there.
Now, your signature, you open each broadcast with a funny ditty on how fast people are leaving their homes. Throw us a few of your famous lines here.
Well, I guess Vamoose to the Hoose is one of my favorite ones.
Uh-huh.
Or Vamoose from the Hoose, whichever,
Right.
if it's morning or afternoon. I like, what is it? The goose, long neck goose. If you're out of there like a long neck goose,
Yeah.
I actually have a long neck goose on my front porch. It's a porch goose. It's a plastic goose.
Yeah.
It's filled with sand, and so the wind won't blow her away.
Right.
And her name is Gertrude. And my wife has outfits for her
Oh,
and dresses her for the special holidays.
yeah.
I think right now she has the 4th of July or something. So,
And you also have an opening having to do with turtles.
herd of turtles. Yeah. We're
Yeah.
off like a herd of turtles. And I've kind of added to that lately because I got tired of just doing the same thing.
Right.
Off like a herd of turtles and peanut butter or something, you know.
This morning you let go of a good one having to do with I can't remember what it was now, but you had some in a mosquito convention and things of this nature. Yeah.
Yeah, bug zapper convention, and we got out of there like a mosquito at a backyard barbecue.
Yeah. Yeah. I've accused you of being responsible for a lot of the wrecks that take place on the freeways.
Well, I hope not.
Some of your opening lines are enough to cause people just to go wacko on the streets. He said, "What?"
I do get a lot of comments.
Do you?
And I'm glad because that means people
Are
people
paying
hear
attention.
them, and they apparently like them. I've never had any negative
Right.
comments about it, but
I remember when I was in radio, I used to give what you would call alliterative forecasts.
mhm.
I would take the day of the week and rewrite the forecast to match the first letter of that day of the week. So if it was Monday, then everything in the forecast started with an M. Okay. And if it
That
was
would be a
Tuesday,
challenge.
yeah, if it was Tuesday, everything started with a T.
Uh-huh.
I'll never forget thermometric Thursdays.
That's funny.
I'll have today's thermometric Thursday in 30. Okay.
That is funny.
So
I
for
like
all
that.
of us who absolutely adore alliterations all the time, did you see what I just did?
Yeah, I see that.
I threw you an
I already
alliterative.
do.
Well, it got to the point where people were tuning in from other stations to hear my alliterative forecasts. I would give one alliterative forecast per day,
Yeah.
and people would tune in from across the city to hear that one forecast. And they would write and call, this type of thing. And Reader's Digest bought the entire collection for $300 back in the 80s to
Wow.
reprint.
That's
So
awesome.
that's how far my funnies went out across the city.
Well, I've never had Reader's Digest or anybody up for that matter to call me, offer me anything for any of mine, but
Yeah.
we have fun with it. That's for sure.
Yes. And a lot of that, of course, depends upon your listeners, what they do, because
Yeah.
I knew that, and the old adage was for every one listener that responds, you have 250 behind them listening.
Yeah. That's
Okay.
I've heard that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't do the math real good, but
Right.
I just listen. I listen to my program director a lot. He's awesome. Randy Fox is awesome.
Uh-huh.
He has some great ideas. And what I love about Randy, and I know you've worked for program directors that kept that thumb right on top of you, and Randy doesn't do that. He
Right.
tells you exactly what he wants, and then he lets you go and do it.
Uh-huh.
And it makes it so much easier to do my job because I'm not fearful of, well, if I say this, am I going to get in trouble? Or,
Right.
I have free reign. If I do something he doesn't like, he'll just say, "Hey, don't do that anymore." Okay.
Yeah.
You know,
He leaves you
scratch
to
that one.
he leaves you to your own creativity.
Yeah. And that is a blessing, as you know, in this business. And it's very rare
Hmm.
that you have a program director that gives you that kind of freedom.
Yes. In the few minutes we have left, I want to touch on a couple of things. Radio has changed because of the internet.
Hmm.
A lot of listeners are now tuned in online
Right.
as versus on the air.
Hmm.
Do you see this as a demographic reality in your world on radio?
Absolutely. And KSBJ, and I don't know if we've touched on this or not, but KSBJ is part of a radio group now. It's called Hope Media Group.
Yes.
And we have merged with Way FM, which is another network of Christian radio stations. We also have Vito Nita, which is our Spanish Christian radio station. And we have Engine Radio, which is now on the internet totally. It is Christian hip hop.
Yes.
And we have done this. We brought in media people that specialize in digital. So we have a whole digital team now that works on our digital content. And we are doing that because we realize radio's days are probably numbered, as you know, as far as tuning in to the old radio, and
right,
they're probably numbered. So we're trying to take steps in advance to head that off at the pass and be caught up with technology.
Stay ahead of the curve.
Yeah. When it does happen, we're not so far behind. We're right there with the forefront.
It's kind of like the print world. So we don't have as much print newspapers and print magazines like we used to because of online content.
Right.
So everybody's having to adapt. Mm-hmm. Another important matter, which goes more to the nerve of what we are all doing, and that's having to do with the significance and the impact of Christian radio. If you would address that, being a Christian yourself, being one who has made that shift from secular to Christian, address, if you would, for a few moments, the significance in a person's life of Christian broadcasting in your home, in your home environment, in your car, this type of thing.
I think that the world has heard so much negative, whether it's politics or whether it's just basic entertainment. I mean, some of the songs that they're playing on secular radio today, it's just bad. It's just so negative. I think the world is sick of the negative, and they're just starved for something positive. And Christian radio has been a savior. Well, pardon the word, but I don't know of another way to put that. It's been a blessing to those that need a positive message, and it gives them hope. It's something that they're not going to get listening to a secular song by a secular artist that has negative lyrics or that has derogatory lyrics. It's something that's positive that the kids can, you're not afraid for the kids to listen to. You're not even afraid for the kids to sing along with. Matter of fact, you're happy when they do. And it's just something that's been needed for a long time. KSBJ has been around for over 40 years now. And I don't think that we saw a huge, significant increase in listenership until about probably 10 or 15 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And the last 10 or 15 years, we've seen a surge of people coming to Christian radio, whether it's KSBJ or whether it's KHCB or whoever, that has a positive message they can listen to.
Yes. So you feel that this does have a significant impact in the kind of people we become, helping us to grow spiritually.
Absolutely.
In a well-rounded manner, as versus the secular side, because we're all soulish people, and that's where the secular addresses predominantly is soulish. But we've got that spiritual side of us that needs to be fed on a continuing basis.
Well, the Bible tells us if you put bad in, you're going to get bad out.
Yeah.
And if you put good in, you're going to get good out.
Yes.
And you're a lot better off if you can feed yourself with good information, positive information that you can actually use.
And you know, even in your own traffic reports, on occasion when there's a real bad scene that you're reporting, you will inform your listeners to pray for the people involved in that particular scene.
Yeah, I will, because some some problems like that needs prayer.
Yes, yes. And I'm thinking right now of that lady who pulled out the lawn chair and sat on the freeway just this past week with a gun in her lap and held up
Yeah,
traffic for 5 hours.
That could have ended very badly, but hats off to the law enforcement officers that handled it the way they did. It ended very good.
Yes.
She ended up hugging the officer that
Yes.
got through to her, you know.
Yes. And people were praying. And
Absolutely.
I even heard secular radio stations and TV stations invite people to pray for her.
Right.
And it really turned out far better than it could have been. That's for sure.
Yeah. So it's, you know, again, it's positive messages. You know, if you approach something like that, it could have been really horrible.
Yes.
But,
well, Bill, I commend you for the kind of work that you're doing. And I believe that you are a trailblazer in this particular industry and a model. And you're easy to listen to. You're fun to listen to. And I'm just glad to see that the Lord has brought you to this place in your work and in your ministry to be somebody that is as informative as you are and as helpful as you are, even in things of the Spirit. So, Bill, you're to be commended. And I'm looking forward to you and I getting together for that coffee we've been threatening each other with.
I'm looking forward to that too. Well, Wally, thank you for your kind words. And Andy, thank you for the work that you do too, brother. We appreciate you both. And thanks for having me on your show.
Amen. And we might even do this again sometime. Who knows? Only the Lord knows. Andy, take it.
All right, so I get to be the fly on the wall in another great conversation, but you're taking me down memory lane. Of course, in marketing, you know, we have to take into account some people are visual, some people like to read, but the theater of the mind is radio. You know, so you think of all the greats that have come and gone in radio. I remember listening to the Dr. Demento show when I was a young man, and then of course listening to the reports of Vietnam when that came in, and I told my mother at the time, I said I'm never going to join the military. I was like 7 years old at the time, and had some uncles that served, et cetera, but wound up serving. But thank you for being a voice. You know, really, the Lord places people in high and low places, and so thank you again for your history and your dedication to radio. I want to say yes. When I was at A&M, we listened to watch the Aggies win. So thank you for being part of that. Anything else that you want to say as far as like how people can contact you, and we'll go ahead and close it a wrap.
Yes, absolutely. If anybody wants to contact me for any reason, whether you want to give me an idea for my daily feature or for my podcast, or a comment about my traffic reports, you can reach me at Mr. Bill at ksbj.org.
Hey, Wally, can we get Bill to do like some kind of announcement for Coffee with Wally one day? We can put it in our
absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, we're open for sound bites. Absolutely.
There you go. All right.
Well, thank you so very much, and do what you can to get me into the Texas Hall of Fame there of radio.
That's what we can do.
You bet.
All right. My name is Andy Valadez, your co-host with Coffee with Wally. You've been listening to Coffee with Wally, your host, where understanding our times becomes clear over caffeine.